going to be talking about drone as first responder for our for this basic training working group. So you'll get a good idea on how to utilize this for these type of operations. If you're not familiar with drone as first responder, that's where a 911 call drops and a drone that is pre-positioned has the ability to be teleoperated from a central location and be able to fly that drone to provide situational awareness and observation resource allocation for before first responders ever get there on scene. Awesome. So on the agenda, we're going to talk about the basic DSR workflow. So what's awesome about our system is in the same application you already have, we have remote operations mode in the top right-hand corner. So you're probably used to seeing under fly mission or fly training mission for doing your basic operations. In the top right-hand corner, you have remote operations mode. And that will let the drone understand that, all right, I'm going to be having this flown through our servers. So just like with everything else, you're just going to log in and select remote operations mode. Once you are in remote operations mode, you'll utilize our remote operations center, or where you can fly the drone over the internet through our portal for that. And so to get into that, that's just remote.dronesense.com. You log in with your normal credentials for your org, and then you'll be able to get into that. If for whatever reason it immediately kicks you back to the credential screen, that means that you do not have the permissions to be able to get into remote. So if you are going to be a remote operator or a remote viewer, you want to make sure that in the web side of the house, the user has remote operator and remote viewer activated so they can get into the remote.dronesense.com side. Once you're in, you have the ability to request control of the aircraft. This can be done 5 different ways currently, which is outstanding. You can just click on the map and send the drone to wherever you want to send the drone on the map itself. You can type in the address point and it'll geo-verify if you're using something like Live 911, which we just had that webinar on with Matt. Thank you, Matt. You also have the ability to type in lat long. You have the ability to type in what 3 words if you utilize it. You also have the ability to just do a tactical takeoff. So if you just want to launch the drone, you can do it that way as well. So you just click on the map on where you want to go, and then you can adjust that waypoint however you would like it to, and then you click go here, and then the drone will send it. If you're utilizing a traditional drone as first responder type solution, then the PIC in the field will have a pop-up and say, do you want to relinquish controls to the teleoperator? You said approve. And then the remote operator or the teleoperator will be able to fly that drone either autonomously or manually to the scene. Next slide. I'm going kind of fast, guys. Does anybody have any questions over the stuff that we talked about so far? Again, don't hesitate to throw it in the chat. Excuse me. I want to make sure everybody has any other questions they may have answered. Sorry, in the Q&A. Cole, do you have anything you want to add? I've been rocketing this thing.
No, I figured we'll go through this pretty quick and I'll go set up a drone and you can fly it remotely and we can actually show them how this works with you down in Houston and me up here in North Central Texas.
Love it.
And we can actually go through how this looks live.
Outstanding. Yeah, that sounds like a blast. If it's going to be flown in autonomous mode, we have different colorations for that. And you'll see that in the top up there where it is magenta. It will show you have autonomous control. It'll also be a bounding box around the video frame. And then it'll also show on the PlayStation 5 controller around the touchpad. It'll also show on the remote controller around the video screen. So a lot of information there to let you know that this drone is being flown autonomously. Once it gets on scene, or if you cancel that autonomous flight mission, it will turn blue, which you can see down at the bottom where it says you have manual control over the aircraft. Again, it'll show on the controller for the RPIC in the field. It'll also show on the PS5 controller as well. Once you have manual control, you have full control of the aircraft. You can make any kind of flight adjustments as you would want on the controller. You can utilize the gimbal systems as well. You can utilize any of the buttons. The PlayStation 5 controller, fully customizable for the user. Whenever you're done with your operation, you can then return to home, and then it will send that drone all the way back, and it will land the drone where you took off. Same information for dock operations as well. Once you've landed the aircraft, you can end the flight, and that will end your operation for that deployment. Yeah, it looks like we have a question. Yep. Go ahead, Cole.
One thing we did want to cover up on this, if you do hit the return to home, that is a blue sky return to home. It's going to come and it's not going to follow its path that it took to get there. It's going to come straight back to you. So
Right.
do ensure that if you're operating inside of a DFR program that you have a clear sky to return directly to home. Make sure there's no buildings in between or anything like that up on there, or towers or anything up on that lines on its path back in. Otherwise, manually fly it back or set points for it to go to for you to get around. Tim, can it auto-populate call location from dispatch? Not currently. That has to be entered in from your CAD or by you manually putting it in there. One day we hope to actually have those integrations built out where we can do that. But there are so many different CAD systems out there in the world that it is a lot of work to get one picked out that we can choose to actually operate and have that in our system. The other one upon that is, of course, how do we go about facing that to ensure that it incorporates the correct addresses sent to you on that, and how long is the dispatch between your CAD system and that actual 911 call or something along that lines?
Yeah. Thank you, Cole. Yeah, we did get a level of integration into this with Pearland. So our CAD system does have an API out, and we were able to get CAD into DroneSense via our Esri integration. And so we were able to make that happen where we can get call information as well, call location and notes as well in there. So we are able to do it from that perspective. But to Cole's point, there are so many different ones. If you would like your API or you would like your CAD system integrated into our software, see if they have an API out. If they do, let us know what you're running, and we'd be more than happy to see if we can get that integrated in for it. All right. For credit on that, yeah, go ahead, Cole.
Get them set up on the credit and everything. I'm going to run out and set up the drone, and we'll be good to go for a live flight and show them what this looks like live.
Yeah, so to Cole's point, guys, if y'all scan that QR code, this is where you'll go ahead and get the credentials for your credit for the course, as well as your course certificates. We can get that online.
Give me just a second, and I'll get our setup here. Brandon, you want to share the remote side of the house? You're muted, Brandon.
I thought it was just my audio that died.
It's because I plugged into the PS5 controller. Yep.
So Brandon, you need to go back about 5 minutes and restate everything you were saying earlier.
Yeah, so again, whenever you're going to log in, you're just going to log into remote.dronesense.com. If it kicks you back out, you need to go back into web and make sure that you have the proper team permissions. Once you are logged in, you're just going to type in remote.dronesense.com, log in, and it will bring you to this screen. You'll plug your PlayStation 5 controller into your computer via USB cable or USB-C to USB-A or USB-C to USB-C, however you would want to plug that one in. You also have the ability to fully customize that controller. So it's going to ask you, do you want to connect to the controller? Hit yes, select the controller you're wanting to connect it to, and then you're off to the races on that one. If you go to your controller, you can come in and map that. Again, this saves to the user, so you can make this whatever you want. So for example, the initial gimbal up and gimbal down is flipped. I like it to be flipped on my controller. I'm also a Mode 3 pilot, and I also think the DroneSense remote's a little bit snappy, so I knocked down the stick sensitivity a little bit. But every single one of these buttons fully customizable for you, and again, it saves to the user. So go in and make those changes however you would like to make your controller. Once you're done, hit save, and it will save it to that. On the left-hand side, we have our menu. So if you wanted to add in a launch site or create a new launch site, you can do that anywhere. So for Cole's launch site down here, or to snap over to it, you can see where sorry, that's Coit's. Clicked on the wrong one. There we are. So you can see that we have Cole's launch site is enabled here. We have two lines here. We have this orange line that goes around his launch site. You can set the distance on that. That's a 2 nautical mile ring. And then we have this white dotted line. That is a 1 nautical mile ring just for measurement and distance. You also have the ability to edit this. So they're fully customizable. You can do a polygon, you can do a circle, whatever you would like to do. And you can name it whatever you want. You can set that to be active if you want that DFR launch site to be available to you for the day, or if you want to shut it down for maintenance, you can turn it off. PIC approval required if you're doing a traditional drone as first responder type solution. You have the ability to where you can bypass the guy in the field saying yes if you want to turn that on. Like, so for example, with my site, it's just me. So I have that one turned off as well. Coming on down, you can set the distances for the radius on that. If you want to make it bigger, you can make it bigger. If you want to make it smaller, you can make them smaller. You also can type it in if you would like. The default gimbal angle, that's the angle in which the gimbal is going to be positioned while it traverses to the scene. We also have the ability to set max flight altitudes as well. So for example, Cole at his house has max flight altitude of 300 feet, so it's not going to fly above 300 feet. We also have minimum flight altitude enabled as well. So if you don't want to fly below 50 feet, you can turn that on. Default flight altitude is going to be the altitude at which the drone traverses to the call for service. So for example, with this one, it's going to fly at 250 feet. In the event you're flying on top of buildings, we do have the offset working now as well. So if you wanted to put that on top of a building, let's say that's 50 feet up, it'll do the offset for the traversing altitude. Return to home altitude, that's exactly what it sounds like. Low battery and Cirrus battery threshold, that's exactly what it sounds like. Max connection latency, we have it at 500. If you're in an area that doesn't have the greatest internet connectivity, you may want to bump that up to like 1500, just to give you a little bit more leeway for that threshold there. Enable smart return to home. That is where it will calculate the algorithm for how far out you've flown to be able to come back with the battery threshold in place. If you wanted to record video on takeoff immediately, you can set it to do that as well. Awesome. Get that out of my way. There we go. Coming on down, we also have all of the remote drones. So for example, you can see that the UVT dock is available. We do have dock integrations built into this. This is the dock 2. So you can see there are live feed in here. If you're interested in docks, let me know. We'd be happy to do a deeper dive into those. But these are fully operational with remote maintenance mode information in here as well. So you can have full customization of the dock 2 here. We also have all of the drones that are available to you as well. So for example, Cole has his drone available and ready for us to fly. And you can see that here on the aircraft on the map as well. Coming on down, we have emergency landing sites. So for example, Cole has a couple of those out here. Think of these as like safe and secure locations to land the drone at. These are fully customizable as well. So for example, here we have the south site one. So if I were to come in and edit this, you can name it whatever you want. You can move it around, place it wherever you need to. You also can set altitude offsets if you're landing on top of a building. But think of those as like safe and secure locations to land the drone in the event that your launch site got compromised or you can no longer fly the drone back to your landing site. Coming on down, we have the controller. Coming on down one more, we have geofences in here as well. These can be, think of these as no-fly zones. We do have floating geofences available to you now as well. So for example, we have the west side of Cole's property here, and it only goes up to 50 feet. So in the event that I was flying the aircraft below 50 feet, it will not allow me to fly into that geozone. It will allow me to fly over it though, so long as I'm not at the 50-foot threshold. You also can do it inversely. So like if you don't want to fly above a UAS facilities map grid, you want to be able to fly underneath one, you can set it to be 200 feet and above, for example. Contact information, you can set up your contact groups just like you can in OpsHub. Your call for service logs, we'll come back to that after we finish up a flight. Map layers, we also have these integrated in as well for any of the mission layers that you would want to add in. So that's the boring stuff, got that knocked out. Let's get into an actual flight. So again, we have Cole's drone here. We have multiple different ways to send the flight path. If I were to just click over here on the map, it will create a flight plan. This magenta flight path will be the path that the drone takes. You can make adjustments for the waypoint mission if you want to do that. The teal here is where the drone will stop and then gimbal down 45 degrees to the center of the circle if you want to do it that way. And if you want to get on a different side, just tell it to take a different path and it'll make the adjustment. You also can type in lat long. So if I were to come in and start typing in the latitude and longitude for this area, it will send the flight plan to here. You also can do the address point as well. So if I were to type in that address point, it geo-verifies, I click on it, and it'll create a flight plan for that as well. You also can use what three words. So like, for example, for this one, the what three words is sandpaper, excuse me, flimsy, and blossom. If I were to type that in, it would create the same point. So multiple different ways to send it. You also have the ability, once you placed where you want to send the drone, if I were to hit select, you have the ability to say, this is where I want to position the drone. You can click fly to target and it will go to that location. If you wanted to still do that offset, you just unclick it and it'll go to there. If you want to do a tactical takeoff, you can also click takeoff only and the drone will only take off, and then you can control the drone after it gets to altitude. So we're going to fly to the location. So we're going to stream it to DS East under the demo SE mission code. Once I'm ready to go, I can hit launch. It will send the flight plan over to Cole. Cole will approve that flight plan because that's how we have it set up for this one. Once he's approved it, the drone will go magenta and take off again. So we have magenta here. We have magenta on the autonomous. I have magenta around my controller here as well. And the drone's going to climb to that predetermined altitude at 250 feet. On the left-hand side, we have the altimeter. So you can see we have height above terrain, height above launch. We have the MSL as well as available to you here. We have any kind of notifications populate here. I'll pull that one out. And then we have, while it transitions to the scene here, it's going to fly to the scene. Once it gets there, it'll gimbal down. Above up here, we have the ability to change the controller anytime you want. So that capability is there for us as well. Awesome. So you can make any of those changes as you would want. Video link, this is going to be the connectivity at Cole's remote. So right now we're streaming in 1080, or sorry, 1920 by 1072. So nice high resolution. Coming over to the data link, this is going to be the internet connectivity and latency that we're seeing here. You can see your GPS information for the connectivity, RF connectivity, battery information as well. And you can turn on or off your obstacle avoidance should you decide to do that. Coming on down, if I wanted to change missions, I can go in and change any of the to a different mission if I wanted to do that here. You can also share out that mission code. So if y'all want to scan that QR code, you can get a live feed of the DFR operation, just like you can in OpsHub with the magic video link. Again, guys, if y'all have any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to throw those in the chat or throw those in the Q&A. All right. Last but not least, we have call for service information. So if you'll notice, we have one here. So this is where you can silo your information. So let's say that this is a call for service for 2024-05-22 for today, and this is our first call flight of the day. And let's say that this was a structure fire. Right? I can label it as that, and now it'll be the public narrative once I make that flight public. So at this point, you'll notice that it's blue, meaning that I have manual control of the aircraft at this point. It also is letting me know that I have manual control of my remote. So at this point, I can fly that drone around. So I have full functionality of the aircraft. This is the Mavic 3T. So I can just fly that on around. There we are.
3E up on this one, not a T.
Sorry, 3E. My bad. Thank you, Cole. We also have all the different payloads you can utilize. So again, if this was the 3T, you'd have thermal. If this is the 3E, so I have the full capability of the zooming functionality as well. So I have the bumper set to zoom in. So I can just hit those bumpers and zoom all the way in or out utilizing the bumpers. I also can utilize my mouse. If I wanted to just zoom in on the map here, I can just zoom in using the roller. We also have the ability to do bounding boxes. So let's say I want to zoom in on this truck. If I just draw a frame around that truck, right, it will allow me to go in and zoom around that truck. There we go. I missed the truck just a touch. But it's just going to go in and create a bounding box around that, and it will zoom in and around it. So a lot of different options for you to be able to zoom in. You also can utilize double clicking on the map here, and it will adjust the gimbal for you too. So if I wanted to just move this guy around, I have the ability to do that just by double clicking on the map. If I turn on gimbal drag option, I also can use the trackpad on the PS5 to do the exact same thing. We also have the strobe light capability. So if you're flying at night, you can turn that little guy on. We also have the ability to capture an image. So if you wanted to capture an image for any kind of evidentiary, it'll automatically download that image for me to my downloads folder. You can switch between video as well. So if I wanted to do a recording of this, I can do that. All of that functionality is in here for us. If you're utilizing thermal, you also have the ability to adjust the different IR palettes underneath here. So let's say we handled this structure fire, right? We're all done, and now we have another call for service. That's going to be down here on County Road 552. So I want to send the drone down here. Well, that's not much of a flight. Let's go a little bit further. There we are. So let's say that we have an assault in progress or something to that effect over here, and I wanted to go in and take a look at that. You'll notice that I can click new call for service, go here. So if I click on this one, it will silo a new call for service for me. So if you'll notice, it's now a number 2 with a whole new information. So if I want to come in, I can go in again, 2024, 05-22-2. And let's say this is that assault in progress.
Hey, Brandon, we have a question here.
Yep.
For running a payload on the M30T, like the Spotlight, does that functionality come through?
Not yet. So they don't have the APK built out, or excuse me, the SDK built out in remote yet for the Spotlight. It is something that's on our roadmap.
I know we recently got that where its full functionality was coming through upon the M30T in our tactical, right. And that's normally where it starts, and then we'll carry it over.
Right. Yeah, great question. Really good question. But yeah, it'll be in here eventually. Just not yet. We just got it into the platform side. Great question, John. So now we're here. So if I were to hit save, this will create a second call for service for me. Again, it's now magenta, so now I have full functionality of the aircraft.
And then once you're on scene, you can always click the on scene to log that time for your on scene for the location.
Right. Nice and fun. Any other questions, guys? Happy to field them.
And of course, we have the SPOI carries over into this too, showing the center point of interest of where your aircraft is looking. You have that visibility, your directional lines, where you've flown, your breadcrumb trails are all carried over in this too. And then once we land and in flight, it does generate a flight log with those CFS logs attached to that flight log. Yes, so Tim, on this, it does generate the magic video link. We can bring that up on the sharing code. But if you are sharing into a mission that already has that magic video link on it, it will trigger those notifications and send that out to on-camera broadcast. No, because if you're streaming to that mission, it's still based off that mission's magic video link.
Awesome. Good questions, guys. 1 second. Just want to take care of something real fast. Any other questions while we wait? All right. Sweet. So now let's say that I need to return to home. Let's say that I'm returning home. I just click return to home. It's going to climb to that predetermined altitude. I can cancel that at any time, and you'll notice that it's now blue and it stops the drone, and I have full functionality of the aircraft again. Karr. So if I needed to go to another call for service at this time, I could do that. All right. We also have the ability to reconnect to the drone. So let's say that if something happened, right, and I wanted to be able to go in and if I wanted to say I lost connection to the drone from the teleoperator side, let's say I lost internet, I can go in and reconnect the aircraft if I need to. So if I were to accidentally go in and hit in flight, you'll notice that the aircraft is here. The drone will go into a return to home functionality. All I have to do is click on it. I can reconnect to the aircraft at that time and retake over this drone.
One of the advantages too of having the standard system is, of course, you have someone with visual line of sight and the remote connected to it, that if something does happen, they have control there that could be taken over. So at any point in this, I can actually take over control, as it'll stay Pick has taken control. Brandon no longer has control of this aircraft, and I can fly out. Bring us down a little bit lower in here and fly over. I have control of this with sticks in hand out here. Now, if Brandon wants to take control of this, I believe he can send a request.
Yep. I can request control here. There you are.
And I can hand it right back to him.
There we go. And now I have full functionality of the aircraft as well. All right, so let's go in and land the aircraft. So I'm going to return to home, and we'll show you all the logs.
So no, skip. See, does it change? Does it change with change in call for service? Nope on that one. Any difficulties to recover after battery swap? No, sir. You can go out there and do a battery swap, though you only get the one swap that DJI recommends there, just due to the caching on those systems. They don't have a lot of memory to handle everything there, so you do need to do a power cycle after a battery swap. So you'll get your one swap on that M30 or 300, and then make sure you do a power cycle on it afterwards. You come back and land. Now, what is the interface between the drone M30 example and remote DroneSense? Is the controller plugged into a computer somewhere via USB cable connected to the DroneSense? Now, for your RPIC, so the person in the office operating like Brandon was flying, that PS5 controller is plugged into the computer operating and flying it. The actual remote for your person in the field operating it, I'm not plugged into the computer at all. I'm just hooked up here for charging at the moment to make sure my battery's getting charged. But it's standard operations, just like you were in the field operating it. On that, and then we'll declare emergency buttons in the drone to the emergency side automatically. No, if you declare an emergency with the drone, that gives you availability to go through any of your geofences you have set up. That allows you to fly and break your ceiling or your floor, so that you have declared an emergency and you can control and move that drone to get it out of the way of, say, incoming aircraft, or you've declared an emergency because you needed to get through that geofence and you've overshot, like I overshadow geofences all the time for RF interference and ensure that I have plenty of space to work with it. So it allows you to go through that and operate it with no, it's an emergency. So you're working in an emergency manner. When you lose connection, do you have to reselect the mission?
No, it automatically pulls in on the mission it was already flying under.
Correct.
Yeah.
With BB loss, how does the drone stay connected? Also, with BB loss, will it still return home if disconnected or closest landing spot that you have pre-marked? Yes.
Yeah. So it won't go to the closest landing site. It will go back to the dock. So that's how it's programmed, is to always go to the dock. The dock is home. So from a fully BB loss perspective, yes, it will go back to the dock location. And then is the interface through the controller running DroneSense? Yeah, you are running DroneSense on the controller side of the house if you're running a controller. Great questions, guys. Great questions. So once you've landed the aircraft, that completes that flight. So from here, we can go to the web side of the house and we can find that flight. So here we have the flight that I just conducted. You'll notice that it is in remote. So if I were to click on this one, it will show all of the flight logs. With this one, it shows me as the remote operator as well. And then we also have all of the flight information associated with the hardware as usual. But what's also really nice is we have the call for service logs in here as well. Sorry, go ahead.
1 second, Brandon. We've got Matthew Doza still confused here. So
Yep, no worries.
you're operating the DroneSense mobile application on the controller of the aircraft. That controller does have to be connected to the internet for it to stream that video out and be able to connect to a remote operations. So we still have the availability here to actually be connected. So your RPIC, your person in the field, your remote pilot will choose remote operations mode, just like if they were choosing our flight app or go fly mission or training mission. There's remote pilot, they'll choose that, and it opens it up, and then you give it permission for the teleoperator to take control of that aircraft.
Correct. Yeah. So you have, just like I have on the slide deck here, you would just select the icon in the top right-hand corner with connectivity, and then it pushes all of that information up to our secure AWS server as usual, and then you can bring it down through remote.dronesense.com and fly it through the PS5 controller. We also have the ability to push, again, all of this can go into OpsHub, so you can have your DFR drones and your DFR drones and your platform drones all flying in the same place. From a pin dropping perspective, we do not have pin drops built into remote yet. It's something else that they're currently working on, Tim. So going back to the flight logs here, you can see that we had that initial one was a structure fire. And you can see all the information associated with that initial deployment. So you can come in and edit those details as well. If you wanted to put in a block number, you can do that, like the 1300 block DroneSense road. You can do that. You can change the case number. You can change the priorities. You can make it public as well if you wanted to. And we have some statistics here available for you too. Once you hit save, that information will go to our publicly facing dashboard. So if I were to go to remote.DroneSense dashboard / US East, you'll see that that flight is now populating on our publicly facing dashboard here. So it has all the information that we just typed out. Again, this is available to you from a remote perspective only. We're working on making that on platform. So this was the one thing that we went the other way with. But it is available for you here. If you'll also notice that we don't have all of those flights available here. So for example, I have not gone through and made that other call for service available. So I had 2 of them here. This one is public and this one is not. Let's say this one's sensitive. I don't want to make it public yet. I cannot make that one public if I so choose. Once I'm ready to make that available to the public, I just click make it public, save it, and then it will populate on the dashboard over here. Any questions? We're coming up on 15 minutes left in the webinar here. Just want to see if there's any other questions that y'all may have.
Matt, that is actually something that has been discussed and brought up multiple times, and we're hoping to get it up on the priority list soon. We just have a lot of other things that are in priority at the moment. So once we get time or get more engineers, we hope we can do that.
Great question, guys. Yep, Texas, we have to do the same thing.
Yeah, we actually have a log called Texas logs for that specifically, and I hope to get that opened up to everyone soon.
Any other questions? Happy to field them. All right, so I got one more thing I'm going to show, and that's going to be the. I got a video of the the dock launch that I can show y'all, so y'all can get an idea on what that looks like as well. See if I can figure out where the heck I saved that file. Stop sharing that one. Look at this one. Our share screen. So this will give you an idea on what it looks like for our dock integrations as well. So on the left-hand side, just like with the normal operations, you have the dock. You select where you want to send that the dock flight to. You have all the same features as far as how to send that flight plan. Once you do, the dock automatically will open up. It'll pull all the rods for the dock 1. For the dock 2, you don't have that that restriction. It'll connect to the drone, which will immediately start to get the feed for, and it will send the waypoint mission. Once the drone has received that waypoint mission, the drone will autonomously launch. So it'll take a minute for it to get all that information and plan that flight out, and then it will go. Generally speaking, we're seeing about 1 minute and 30 seconds on the launch time. Sometimes less, sometimes just a little bit more. Climb to altitude, just like you see with traditional DFR. And then it'll fly to scene, and then you have full control of the aircraft, just like anything else, just like everything else. So again, this is the M30T for this system, so you'll get to see the thermal capabilities on this one. We can absolutely send over a copy of the presentation. And Tim, we'd be happy to also have secondary conversations and consult meetings about how to make sure that y'all are successful in getting it built out. Absolutely. So again, full functionality of the aircraft, you can zoom in and out, utilizing the roller. You can do bounding boxes, just like with everything else. Thermal also works. Visual zoom side by side also works. All of that functionality is in here. And then just like we showed you with all the rest of the information, you have the ability to send it to multiple calls for service and things of that nature.
Tim, I do believe we record all these. This is recorded. Not sure where they're publishing them at the moment, but they should be able to be published, and we can see about getting you a copy of that if you are interested in it. Or if you'd like, we can get into a deeper dive on this with Brandon here, and he can go in and give you the slide deck and everything with it and go through all the stuff of actually setting that up and doing a true demo and set up for it so you can understand that better.
And then once it lands, the dock will close. It'll start charging and get it ready for the next deployment. All right, we got 10 minutes left, guys. Does anybody have any other questions, comments, concerns about BV loss as a whole, DFR, waivers, any of those questions? Happy to fill them. Outstanding. Yeah, Alex will take care of you for sure. Cole, do you want to put that QR code back up again just for the course registration in case anybody missed it?
Yeah, hold on one second.
Awesome. All right. Again, guys, open forum for any questions that y'all may have. Happy to field them. If not, we really appreciate everybody's time, and we'll hope to see y'all on the next one, guys.